All right, everyone, get ready because today we are diving deep into something that impacts all of us, something that's at the heart of how our world works. It's port congestion.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you might be thinking, traffic jams? Who needs another one of those? But trust me, this one is way bigger than just cars on the road.
Absolutely. This isn't about just a few ships waiting to dock. This is a system, a global system, the system that delivers almost everything you buy. And it's getting squeezed.
Okay, so you're saying this isn't just something people who work at ports or live near the coast need to worry about.
Nope.
Like, how does this affect me sitting here right now, ordering things online?
Think about it. That online order you placed. Or those prices that seem to keep going up on everything. Port congestion has a hand in all of that stuff.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but I also need some definitions here. What exactly is port congestion? Like, paint a picture for me.
Well, port congestion is essentially this. The flow of goods through a port, all those goods, they get squeezed. It's like a funnel. You try to pour too much in at once, it backs up, slows everything down.
Okay, I get that. But where exactly is this bottleneck happening? Is it just ships lined up waiting their turn?
Well, it can happen anywhere in the system. Think about it. Ships waiting at anchor. Yep.
Mhm.
Containers piling up in the yards. Even traffic jams on the roads leading in and out. Oh, yeah. And sometimes it's not just one thing. It's a whole chain reaction of problems.
Oh, so it can be this kind of domino effect.
Exactly.
All right, so what are the big culprits behind this whole congestion mess? What causes these dominoes to start falling?
Well, one of the biggest things is that increase in global trade we talked about. More trade, that equals more ships. And a lot of ports, they just weren't built to handle this volume, this much stuff, these giant ships we're seeing today.
So are you saying they're like trying to fit a cruise ship into a tiny marina?
Yeah, it's kind of like that. And it's not just the physical space either. Some ports don't even have the infrastructure. Enough cranes or storage yards to even process all that cargo fast enough. And then you've got those operational inefficiencies, slow cargo handling, outdated tech, all that stuff that causes more delays.
It's like that restaurant where the kitchen is totally slammed, nobody knows where anything is, and then the waiters are all confused running around.
You got it.
Pure chaos.
And then you throw in the human element. Labor shortages or strikes can just shut a port down, completely stop it. And even a pandemic, well, we've seen what that can do to a system like this.
It's like the whole thing's just teetering on the edge, like one little nudge, and the
There
whole
you
thing
go.
comes crashing down.
And then you add in those unpredictable things. The weather, natural disasters, even geopolitical stuff. Like, remember that whole Suez Canal blockage?
Ooh.
When ship gets stuck and suddenly the whole global supply chain's in a tailspin?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Okay, so it really is a perfect storm of problems. And I'm guessing this isn't just a minor inconvenience we're talking about. What are the real-world impacts of this congestion? Like, how does it actually affect you and me?
Well, those delays, right? Those delays mean you wait longer for that new phone you ordered or those sneakers you wanted or whatever it is you're waiting on. And we all know time equals money, right? So all those delays, well, they turn into higher prices for everyone. And sometimes those delays can even mean shortages. Remember when, like, computer chips were so hard to find or building supplies, port congestion? It was a big part of all of that.
So this goes way deeper than just a few ships waiting in line, huh? We're talking about like real impacts on prices, on what's available.
It all comes back to this, how connected everything is. The world relies on this global trade system, and it's fragile in a lot of ways.
So we've painted a pretty bleak picture here, but we can't just throw our hands up, right? There have to be some solutions, some ways to unsnarl this mess.
Oh, there are. There are definitely solutions. No magic wand, though, unfortunately.
Magic wand, huh?
No. But a lot of smart people are working on this, and some really fascinating ideas are out there.
Okay, I need some good news here. Give me some hope.
All right. Well, one of the more obvious ones is investing in infrastructure. A lot of ports are trying to modernize, expand so they can handle all this extra traffic, these massive ships.
So it's like we got to make those marinas bigger for the cruise ships.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Deeper harbors, longer docks, bigger cranes, you name it. It's a big job, sure. But it's got to happen if we want to keep up with how much stuff is moving around the world.
Okay, makes sense, but that also sounds pretty expensive and like it'll take forever. Any quicker fixes?
Ah, that's where tech comes in, right? Automation and AI are already making a difference in some places. Imagine cranes that drive themselves moving containers 20/47, or like these little automated vehicles that move things around the port. So efficient.
Like robots doing all the work.
Yeah.
Now that's what I call progress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't underestimate the power of data. Ports are starting to use, predictive analytics to see what's coming so they can plan better, you know, get ready for those peak times, optimize the schedule, even react in real time to like weather or traffic.
It's like a crystal ball for the port. Pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. But even with the best tech in the world, you still need people, right?
Yeah.
That's where better coordination comes in. You need the shipping lines, the people running the terminals, customs, the trucking companies, all of them working together smoothly.
Yeah, because what good is a hyper-efficient port if there's a line of trucks backed up for miles outside?
Exactly. And that's where stuff like, digital platforms can help
Uh-huh.
and real-time tracking. So everyone's looking at the same information. Like imagine everyone involved knowing exactly what's happening so they can coordinate their moves and avoid those bottlenecks.
So like one giant calendar for the whole port, everyone can see what's going on.
You got it. And this isn't just about making things faster. It's about making them more sustainable, too.
Right, right. The environmental impact. We can't forget about that.
All those ships, all those trucks burning fuel, it adds up. So ports are looking for ways to cut emissions. Cleaner fuels, better routes, even stuff like shore power, so the ships can turn their engines off at the dock.
So it's like we can have a system that's not just more efficient, but actually better for the environment.
Exactly. Win-win, right?
All right, so far we've got infrastructure upgrades, automation, better coordination, and making things more sustainable. Anything else? This is a lot to keep track of.
There's more. Another big one is diversifying shipping routes. Instead of just relying on a few major ports, what if we spread the cargo around more? That way, no single port gets completely overwhelmed.
So like don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. So we need to build up those connections between different regions, develop some new ports. That makes the whole system more resilient, right?
So if one port has problems, the whole thing doesn't grind to a halt. Makes sense.
Right. And then there are the, I guess you could call them simple but effective things, better management practices at the ports themselves, things like just-in-time strategies so cargo doesn't just sit around, and better container tracking so everybody knows where everything is all the time.
So it's like an incredibly organized warehouse, everything in its place, no wasted space or time.
That's the idea, yeah. It's all about making that flow of goods as smooth as possible.
Okay, this is all great, but it still feels pretty complex, like all these different pieces. Is there anything that can tie it all together?
There is, actually. And it's one of the coolest things happening in this whole space. Ever heard of port community systems?
Port community systems. I gotta be honest, that sounds a little intimidating.
Nah, it's not that bad. Think of it like a platform that connects everyone in the port. The authorities, the shipping companies, the terminal operators, customs, everyone.
So it's like everyone's on the same page, like literally. They can all see what's going on.
You got it. And they can share all kinds of information like when ships are coming, what's in the containers, whether there are enough trucks available, if customs has cleared everything.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could be a game changer.
Oh yeah, big time. When everyone knows what's happening, all that guesswork and confusion goes away. Way fewer delays.
So transparency and communication, that's the key.
Exactly. And the best part is, these port community systems, they can be set up to fit each individual port's needs. It's like bringing all those solutions we talked about, infrastructure, automation, data, coordination, all into one system that actually works.
That's pretty incredible. It sounds like these port community systems could really be the future of how ports work, more efficient and more sustainable.
Absolutely. It's definitely something to watch.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about what causes all this congestion, how it affects us all, and a whole bunch of solutions that people are working on. This is obviously a complicated issue with a lot of moving pieces, but what's the one big takeaway for our listeners?
I think for me, it's realizing that this isn't just some problem that's happening, over there somewhere. Like it's not just about ships and ports. It really affects all of us. What we can buy, how much things cost, even just finding the stuff we need.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. It shows us how connected we all are. We need this global trade system to work, and when it doesn't, we all feel it.
Right. So like the next time you see the news talking about port backups or your orders delayed, you'll know what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly. And hopefully you'll also see that, people are working on it, there are solutions, and people are trying to make things better.
Absolutely. So out of all those solutions we talked about, which ones really stood out to you? Like, what are you most excited about? I gotta say, those port community systems, I think those have huge potential. Like, imagine if every port was connected like that. Everyone's sharing info. That could really change the game.
It's like almost like a social network for ports. Everyone can see what's happening, who's doing what, where everything is.
Exactly. And that shared knowledge, it means better coordination, and that means more efficiency, fewer delays.
It makes me think, if it works for shipping, could we use this idea for other stuff, like other big systems that are really complex?
That's a really interesting thought. What if healthcare or transportation even, like government, what if they all had that kind of real-time info sharing and coordination? That could be amazing.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about there. It's like port congestion. It's not just a problem to solve, it's also like a case study, a way to learn how to make things better in general.
That's a great way to put it. It reminds us that even when things seem kind of crazy, there's always room for improvement, you know?
Absolutely. Well, I think that brings us to the end of our deep dive into the world of port congestion. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Hopefully you learned something new, and maybe you even feel a little more connected to the global systems that, well, that make our world work.
It's been my pleasure. And hey, next time you're waiting for a package, don't just blame the delivery company, you know? Think about that journey it took from a port somewhere across the world all the way to you.
And who knows, maybe someday, because of those solutions we talked about today, those journeys will be smoother, faster, and even greener.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those cargo ships moving.